Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. At a certain point, it's not about helping someone get back on their feet. It's about whether they're even trying to stand. Today in the rLounge, you can't push someone forward if they're not willing to take a step themselves. Stepson told me I wasn't his real parent, so I took back everything I gave him, and now he's begging. I, 65 male, have been dealing with my stepson, Danny, 27 male, for a long time, and now I think it's enough. Context. He's the only son of my late wife, Carol. She and I went to college together. We walked different paths before finding love in each other. After college, she ended up with a guy who turned out to be a complete waste of oxygen. He was so pathetic a guy that, after abusing their marriage for years, walked out on her when Danny was barely 5. He just disappeared in thin air without leaving anything for them. She remained single and focused on raising that boy. Back then, I was with someone else. Thought it was the real deal. Then one day, I came home to find her in bed with her colleague. That was the end of that chapter. Then a couple of years later, I ran into Carol. She told me she was a single mother raising a young boy, and I feel so terrible. She didn't deserve that life. She was a good woman, a good friend. We began talking. I got attracted to her. Her resilience was commendable. She was trying to stretch every dime she made from 2 jobs. Once I showed up near her apartment and she embarrassingly invited me inside. It was a matchbox-sized, 1-bedroom with a leaky ceiling. That was the first time I met Danny. He was 9. I was a very reserved and timid kid, polite but distant. Eventually, Carol and I started dating and I met Danny quite often. However, I never imposed myself on him. Gave him the time and space to accept my presence. Since Carol and I both had a terrible experience in our past relationship, we didn't jump into marriage right away. However, it was painful for me to see them live in that dungeon, so I offered to let them move in with me. Carol was reluctant because of Danny, so once I invited them over to my house, and then Carol asked me if he wanted to move, and he enthusiastically said yes. He loved the house with a pool and backyard. This was the first time I saw him so excited, so happy to have his own room. They moved with me. We were not married, yet I did everything a father and a husband should do. He was not wicked or disrespectful towards me, but was also not warm and loving. Yes, he had a boundary, which I very well respected, but if it came to money, the boundary suddenly collapsed. Danny was 14 when he said he wanted to study in a boarding school upstate. I happily pitched in to cover the expenses. Just a few days before he left, we got married after dating for 5 years. We wanted to have a child together, but it was too late for us, so we adopted a girl who turned 21 recently. She's sweet and beautiful, and it has been so effortless with her. With Danny, it was never that simple. Still, I did what I could. Bought him his first laptop when he started high school, paid for his private boarding school tuition, fully funded his 4 years of college, tuition, books, housing, everything, co-signed his first car loan, and paid it off myself when he defaulted, got him a summer internship through a friend at his company, helped him furnish his first apartment, paid for emergency dental surgery when he cracked a tooth and didn't have insurance, paid off his credit card debt at 20 when he had $9,000 hanging over him, gave him interest-free loans 4 times since Carol passed, never once asked for repayment. And all for whom? Carol, yes. She's the love of my life, my best friend, my partner. Sadly, I lost her to cancer 2 years back. Her absence still haunts me, and I don't want to remember those moments. Before leaving the world, she made me promise on her deathbed that I'd take care of her son. She said, "Don't let him fall, please, for my sake." So I didn't. I kept catching him. Just a month after her funeral, I was still sleeping on the couch because I couldn't bear to lie in her bed without Carol. Danny called and said he needed help paying his rent. He'd burned through his savings launching a tech-adjacent startup that had no real product. Said his bank account was near zero. I wired him $2,500 that day. Then a year later, he called at midnight, said his car had been repossessed. He was behind on payments. Said it was impossible to survive without a car because he has to travel across the city for client meetings. I paid $800 to clear the debt and another $400 to get it out of inbound. No thank you, just got it or return ASAP. Last year, he called me in a panic. Said he was being sued over a broken freelance contract. Said the client was threatening legal action and he needed to pay to settle. I gave him $3,000. Found out later there was no lawsuit. He just messed up a gig, got a bad review, and panicked. Last month, he called me again, saying he was this close to scaling his business and just needed $5,000 to handle some logistics. Honestly, I lost it by then. I mean, how many times do I have to bail him out? I asked what exactly he needed the money for. He said he'd tell me when he visits. I said, fine, I'll have a check ready when you come by. He got silent and hung up. In the evening, when I was just sitting idle, I checked out his website. It looked like it was built in 2010 and never updated. Terrible SEO, cluttered design, confusing services. I've run a business. I know how important it was. I called him. Hey, I checked out your website. Lots of stuff looks broken. He stopped me in between and said, yeah, fixing them needs money. I clarified that there's some simple stuff you could fix yourself and it would look a lot better. He was like, I don't have the time. I said, cool, give me the access. I can fix it for you. He bit his tongue and said, okay, I will when I have the time. Now would you please wire in $5,000? I replied, but I'm already fixing it for you. What do you need the money for? He went silent for a while and then said, if you're going to question me, forget it, and hung up. It got on my nerves. I mean, obviously I'm going to question where my money is going. I'm not running a charity here. Ugh. Do you think I would be able to put up with such a guy for a long time? You've done more for Danny than most biological fathers ever do for their kids, and honestly, it sounds like you've reached a very reasonable breaking point. It's not that you haven't helped. It's that you've always helped. Every time he's called, you've picked up, no matter the hour or the cost. You've shown up again and again, out of love for Carol and a sense of duty. But Danny seems to have confused compassion with obligation, and support with an open wallet. Update 1. Thanks for all the sweet comments. Ignoring the salty ones. Not in an age to take any BS. So I made the young man have the taste of his medicine, but let me tell you what triggered me to go such lengths. A week later, to my post, he showed up. Mind you, this was the first time he visited me after Carol died, and the phone calls he made were only for money and never to check on me. I was polite. I invited him in, offered him a beer. He declined and came straight to the point. Actually, I was here to collect the check. His entitlement boiled my blood already, but I still played along and pretended, what check? He got confused and said, you said I can collect the check when I visit, right? I clarified, no, you said you'd tell me the reason you need the money for the check. I was like, did you already tell me the reason? Pardon my aging brain, I tend to forget things. He took a deep breath, maybe in agitation, and gave some vague reason why he needed the money. I dug deeper and cross-questioned, which further annoyed him. However, I didn't back off and insisted on clarity until he snapped. Look, I didn't ask for a speech. You always do this. I come to you for help and you act like you're some business guru. I don't need a preacher, all right? Just a simple yes or no. I responded with a genuine intention that I wasn't preaching at all. I was trying to give him some advice. The kind of stuff I wish someone had given me when I was his age. That's when he asserted the final word, which pushed me off the cliff. You're not my real parent, all right? So don't pretend like you've done some right to give me life lessons. If you can't help me, then don't bother preaching. It was clear and sharp. I didn't speak. Couldn't. I stared at the floor. I remember the hum of the fridge behind me, the ticking of the wall clock. That sentence echoed louder than everything else. You're not my real parent is what he said. He didn't mean it in passing. He meant it to cut, and it did. I got up and pushed off to my room. I heard him leaving and slamming the door behind. I spent a couple of hours sulking, beating myself up over why the hell I was even bother giving him my advice. Why did I care? But then it hit me. I didn't do anything wrong. I did what any decent human being would do. Actually, scratch that. I did what any parent would do. And if he's so hell-bent on reminding me I'm not his real one, then fine. Let's treat it like that. I have every right to question him about the money I lent, not gave. And if he's got a problem with that, then he better cough up every single cent he owes me. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning and fixed a meeting. Laid out everything from the start. He asked me to fish out the complete records of the money I lent him and the conversation that led to it. I worked with my account manager to pull out the transaction history and collated all the texts Danny sent me asking for money. My lawyer informed me that some of the money requests were made over the call might be difficult to recover. I said even if we manage to get half of our claim, we are winning. My motive is not to get my money back, but to let him have the taste of his medicine. We filed an official demand for repayment, backed by documentation. The amount came out to be a little over $42,000. He had 30 days to respond before we escalated to small claims in civil court. And boy, did that light a fire. He must have gotten it the next morning because he blew up my phone. 10 missed calls, back to back. I didn't pick up, not interested in another pity party. In the evening, he shows up at my door with a laptop and pretends it's a regular visit. He goes, sorry I had to leave abruptly the other day. Look, I brought my laptop so I can show you everything. Give a proper run-through of my business. Maybe you could help me with some of your wise advice. I snapped, cut the crap. You made it very clear the other day I'm not your real parent. So, I have nothing to do with you or your business now. He looked like he didn't expect that. His eyes darted around like he was searching for the right words. I was stressed. I didn't mean to say what I said. I wasn't in the right headspace. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I bet. But the thing is, I've given you the benefit of the doubt more times than I can count. I'm all out now. He tried the guilt route next. Mom would be so hurt seeing you do this to me. If she were here, she would save me. I stared him dead in the eye. I'll deal with her when I die. Right now, I'm settling this with you. He didn't say a word after that, just stood there for a few seconds, then turned and walked out bitterly. Then it was his lawyer emailing us, saying they wanted to resolve the misunderstanding outside court. Misunderstanding my foot. I told my attorney, let them come swinging. We're not backing off. We prepared a 90-page file. Here's what we had in our arsenal. 1. Every payment I ever sent was via bank, each labeled with memos like loan for car, covering rent, startup funds, etc. 2. In his text messages, he never once referred to them as gifts, always used terms like borrow, I'll pay back, or it's just a loan until things pick up. Even had one where he said, once I get funding, I'll clear everything I owe you. 3. There was one email from him when he asked for $3,000 to settle that fake lawsuit. He ended it with, I promise this is the last time. I'll pay you back by the end of the next quarter. Pretty damning. Number 4. Times, dates, and durations of phone calls right before each transaction. Matched up perfectly with the payment timestamps. Just painted a full picture. 5. Screenshots of his failed GoFundMe and emails to investors where he listed my money as founder backing in the support section. That one alone shot holes in his lawyer's gift argument. They had nothing. No leg to stand on. His lawyer tried to buy time, shift the narrative, get an extension. It didn't work. My lawyer pushed back hard. Told them we were ready to move to court. That's when Danny came back again, this time with tears in his eyes. Requested to have a talk. I replied, if it's about the court case, I'm out. Actually, I'm out of everything to do with you. He broke down suddenly and let out, you have plenty, and I have nothing. Why are you still after me? Please, this will destroy me. I looked him in the eye, calm and firm. I'm not your parent, remember? So don't expect pity. You borrowed that money. Now return it. Simple as that. And before he could open his mouth again, I added, and next time, don't show up without a reason. I'm not your father. He stood there frozen for a second, then turned and stormed off. He's 27. I've known him since he was 11. For 16 years, I've been there, supporting, showing up, paying and providing. Not trying to prove anything, just doing it as a sense of duty and for the sake of my love for Carol. I kept my promise to her. I've carried him further than he knows. But at some point, you realize, some people don't want to be carried. They just want a place to fall when things collapse. And I'm tired of being that crash mat that's not allowed to speak. Helping someone doesn't mean letting them take advantage of you. It's incredibly painful to hear, you're not my real parent, when you've been everything a parent should be. And yet, sometimes people say the worst things when they're cornered. Update 2. Here's the details of the court case. Sorry for the late update. I was traveling to the other continent. So, after I refused to accept the out-of-court settlement, we got a date. They tried arguing it was all just generosity from a father figure, calling it gifts. The judge asked them, if it was a gift, why is your father claiming it back? What's your reason? They came up with the stupidest and hilarious reason. They claimed I was bitter and trying to exploit a startup success. His lawyer even suggested that this was retaliation out of emotional spite after an argument. Cute, right? It was hilarious that they couldn't even come up with a better reason. Seeing my age, my net worth, and my liabilities, only a fool would believe that I was jealous of his sinking startup. The judge skimmed through the document stack and asked Danny point blank, did you tell him you'd pay him back? He mumbled something incoherent. The judge pressed, yes or no? Danny nodded. Quiet. Like a kid caught stealing. Then this is not a gift. This is a loan. Pay it back. Boom. Case closed. The judge ordered full repayment with a strict installment plan since Danny didn't have the full amount. The court even added a 5% late fee clause for any missed payments. He owes me for the next 3 years. I didn't ask for interest. Didn't add penalties or demand compensation for emotional distress. I could have. I didn't. The court case wasn't about money, but to show him who the father is. His lawyer somehow convinced the judge to allow a structured installment plan citing business losses. I agreed to the installments. He paid up for a couple of months on time. I was actually surprised he followed through, but I knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, 3rd month rolls in, nothing. 4th, silence. Instead of a check, I received an intimation from his lawyer citing the reason for the delay. 5th, I get a letter from his lawyer again. At first, I thought it was another delay excuse,
Maybe a sob story about a business collapse or some emergency. But no, it was a notice that he wanted to initiate the process of claiming his share of the inheritance. I laughed. I mean, really laughed. Deep belly laugh. The kind that comes out when something is just too stupid to be real. Inheritance? From me? The same man who stood in my living room and said, "You're not my real parent?" That same man now wants a slice of what I built? My lawyer called to check if I was okay. I told him I was more than okay. I was entertained. We drafted a response with firm and clear words. He had no legal right to my estate. Carol and I never owned joint property. Everything I have today, this house, the land, the cars, even the garage, I had it before we were married. And Carol, God bless her, burned through every penny she had on that boy. Oh, did I mention Carol cut him off for years because of his reckless behavior? She thought it would teach him a lesson. Guess what? It didn't. When she was diagnosed with cancer, she informed him. That's when he came crawling back into her life. Maybe thinking he would get the inheritance, but she had nothing left. Her savings were gone and wiped clean long before. He had been exploiting her financially for many years. I don't know the exact details of how she had been funding him. If he could act so entitled and narcissistic in front of me, imagine how he was with his mother. He took her car the day she was bedridden. Didn't even ask, just picked up the keys and said he needed it to run errands for her. That car never came back. Her jewelry? Probably long gone. And now he has crossed all levels and is filing claims over things he never lifted a finger to build. After our legal response hit him, it must have stung. My lawyer told me Danny was visibly shaken, like he'd assumed he'd coast through life on everyone else's dime forever. It wasn't over yet. He showed up at my house again, distressed and broken, looking destitute with eyes red and shoulders caved in, completely opposite to the arrogant little man who came looking for a check. He stood outside my door like a schoolboy about to get detention. He didn't even wait to be invited inside and started crying. "I don't have the money. I can't pay you back. I'll never be able to. Even if I shut down the business, I messed up. Please, just forgive me, like you would have done to your son." I stood there, silent for a second, and then replied, "I would have done the same to my son if he behaved like you." He kept sobbing, saying how hard life had become after Carol passed away, how he's getting evicted, how the business is in ruins, how nobody wants to help him anymore. I listened, let him talk, let him spill every excuse, every reason, without interrupting him. And when he finished and was out of breath and tears, I said, "You came to me not for forgiveness. You came to me hoping I'd clean up the mess again, that I'd step in like I always have. But here's the thing, Danny. You made it crystal clear. I'm not your father. So I'm not becoming your father, and sorry, I don't do charity to strangers." He looked up at me just like I'd shattered his entire reality. He finally understood that bridges burn both ways. I simply stepped back and said, "Just to let you know, you're not welcome in this house anymore, not even in the yard." And I quietly shut the door. He hasn't come back since. Do I think he'll be able to pay me back everything he owes? Not at all. But he has definitely learned his lesson, and that's what I wanted. It's a tough lesson for him, but honestly, it sounds like one that he desperately needed. You're not just fighting for money, you're fighting for dignity and peace of mind, and that's just as important. Have you ever had to cut someone off, even family, because they kept taking advantage? How did you handle it? Share your stories with us. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.